Hi, good evening, everyone. I call the Tuesday, September 24th, 2024 Peninsula School District Board of Directors meeting to order. All board directors are present. Will you please note, this is a regular scheduled meeting that is held to conduct district business, and it is open to the public and is being recorded. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 is our agenda approval. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by Lori to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried and the agenda is approved. Okay, this is my favorite part of the evening. I'm so thrilled to have our student reps with us here for the first meeting of the year. We have students representing all 3 of our high schools and our community transition program. So I will turn it over to our students to give us a report and tell us what's happening in your schools. So who would like to start? You want to start from Henderson Bay? Thank you, Amelia.
My name is Amelia Lindberg, and I'm the board rep for Henderson Bay High School. It's only the 4th week of school, so we don't have as much as usual, but Henderson Bay's food bowl contribution was less than last year, but this year we pulled in 2002 items, and we're excited to pump up the advertising and donate more next year. Our Spirit Week is next week, which we're really excited about because our leadership class takes Spirit Week very seriously. And so I'm excited to see the turnout for that. We've been harvesting things from our garden that we started last year. And so we've been harvesting over the summer and here. So we've gotten a lot of tomatoes and garlic, and that's what we've been doing mostly because it's been starting to get colder. And we got a greenhouse donated from Rotary Club. So we're really excited to continue our garden there, which is what our leadership class is in charge of. And then upcoming, we have a pancake breakfast the morning of Tide Fest, which is a fundraiser for all 4 classes. And each class is doing a different fundraiser that we collaborate on. So I'm excited for that as well. So that's my stuff.
Great. Any questions for Henderson Bay? All right.
Hi, I'm the student rep from Peninsula High School, and it's just nice to be back, first of all. Anyway, so with Seahawk 101, we had that before the school year started. It was like the freshman orientation, just welcoming around 300 new students and new freshmen and transfer students, and we're just super excited to have them here at PHS. Seahawks, we love to be Seahawks. Yeah, we also had Food Bowl this year, which did not go great. We only got around 2,000 items this year, but our ASB is going to be planning something else, to another fundraiser for food backpacks for kids to make up for it. So yeah. We also had Fishbowl. It was a super fun game. It was a ton of fun to watch. Congratulations to Gig Harbor. They did great. But one thing I do want to say, I want to give a shout out to our student section. We had a ton of great leaders making sure we kept the chants nice and focused on our team and clean and respectful. We gave a little talk about it during our assembly about sportsmanship right before Fishbowl. And so it was nice to see that the students were nice. Next, we have our HOCO, or homecoming. It's October 12th, and the theme is Night at the Movies. So for the seniors, we're going to be Cars. Juniors is Coco. Sophomores are going to be Lilo and Stitch. And then the freshmen are going to be Up. So that's going to be actually kind of fun. And then we also have the College and Career Fair coming up on October 21st. So students, especially seniors, because, college admissions is like right around the corner. Yeah, they get to go explore different colleges and careers that they might be interested in, and hopefully make the right decision. We also have Club Rush coming up on the 24th, so most of the clubs from our school are going to have tables, and students can come see all the clubs that our school offers, and get to meet new people, join new clubs, and make amazing memories. Moving on to sports, our fall sports have actually been doing really well. We've had a lot of participation, and from what I've been hearing, everybody's been having a great time. So our fall sports are boys tennis, girls swim and dive, water polo, football, volleyball, girls soccer, cross country for both boys and girls, cheer, and then speech and debate. I also believe Knowledge Bowl is considered a sport too. We also had we also had our first college commit. Electra Higgins is going to SMU for D1 for cross country and track, so that was super impressive. Shout out to her. And on September 28th, the band is having the Peninsula Classic Marching Band competition. It's going to be held at Peninsula High School. And then also, one last thing. I just wanted to give out a shout out to our school counselors. They've been doing a ton, especially these first few weeks of school, to make sure everything's running smoothly, and especially like all the teachers and staff and everybody. So yeah, everybody's been doing great. We're having a great time at Peninsula High School. Thank you, guys.
Everyone, you might recognize me from last year or some of the work that I did over the summer, but I'm Logan Toms, the senior representative for Gig Harbor High School, and this is our first meeting back for the school year, and we had a wide rush of people getting back to school. It was all really exciting, and something that came as a shock to us was the basically new and improved building phone policy, which I know has been a pretty big topic in our district in the past few months and years. And the biggest change that you can really see this year is that now teachers have phone caddies, so it's not necessarily little bags that you put your phones in, but it's a thing that they put on a wall or on a stand that you put your phones in at the beginning of class, and you don't have access to them for the rest of it. And that seems to be doing a good job of making sure kids aren't distracted on their phones, and teachers have been really taking advantage of it, as it has been a large admin push, and it's working at the class level and gives the teachers a lot of control over their classrooms, which they previously have not seen. Now, also to make sure that seniors are being properly helped for their incoming college applications, we had a senior meeting and open house for the rest of the school on September 18th. Now, we also had our food bowl event, which happened, I believe, the week after Fish Bowl, and similar to Peninsula, we didn't really do great. I don't have a specific number, but it is really not up to our standards, especially compared to our prior year's success. So I know, as similar to Peninsula, our ASB is working hard to figure out a solution to that. Maybe, I think they were considering maybe doing a similar thing for basketball to make sure there's that competition and make sure that there's that actual energy around it. Now, our homecoming dance is coming up on October 5th, our HOCO Hoedown, and that'll be hosted at Gig Harbor High School, and it's a really exciting time to be a student. You have people in the halls asking each other to the dance, and it's just really exciting. Now, with the start of the new school year, we also have our fall sports, which have started. The biggest highlight that you can see in sports is clearly our fishbowl victory, 2 times in a row now, and that's really exciting. The ending score was 14-10, which some people may not mention. And but I did want to talk more about fishbowl and the general successes that we saw apart from who specifically won it. And that was that it seemed to be much more successful. People weren't having as much trouble with parking, and it was generally a much more safe and secure event. And now it's kind of the time for the district to consider its next steps and making sure that students have the best time there and are able to really enjoy the experience while continuing to be as safe and secure. Now, looking at our specific sports, our boys water polo is going against Silas in an away match, which started at 5:30 today. Our boys tennis just yesterday beat Capital in a 4-1 victory, and will be going against another team tomorrow, which I forgot somehow. Our girls swim team is also handling a bunch of events, which Caitlin is going to talk about.
Hi, so yeah, my name is Caitlin and I'm the second representative from Gig Harbor High School, and I'll just continue where Logan left off. So our girls swim and dive won their season opener 140-21 against Lakes High School and has had a bunch of meets past that. Along with that, our girls volleyball is playing right now. They actually traveled to CK and started at 5:45 p.m. today for that game. Along with that, our varsity soccer travels to Lincoln and plays at 7 p.m. And then our Tides football has an away match against Lincoln that's coming up this Friday. Also, a shout out to our H2O dance team, which is qualified for the UDA Nationals in Orlando, Florida, and is holding a Fondies takeover tomorrow from 4 to 8 p.m. to help with fundraising and getting some money for that activity. And then our team GPAs have come out for our fall sports, with 7 out of our 8 teams playing right now earning outstanding GPAs and 1 earning a distinguished GPA. Along with that, some upcoming activities in our clubs is that our drama club is hosting auditions on October 2nd for their upcoming play Frozen Jr.
My name's Lauren Holmberg. I'm I'm the new ones here for this school board meeting, and this is my second year at the community transition program, and I would like to tell you about some fun activities we've been doing this year for our CTP place. During our first week of school, we were playing some get to know you games, which were provided by the Generation Wellness, and they helped us to learn things what people like to do for their spare time, for like what their hobbies are or what their things they like to do. For our first Fun Friday, we had a barbecue with the university place, another part of Tacoma, which is somewhere in Tacoma, and they came here to have some fun with us, and I helped cook and serve the food to the people, and they really liked that for me. And every Friday we walk to Kimball Automotives for donuts, and they are always so good by them. And we also see the Peninsula High School students, so they can have donuts for themselves and socialize with us to see what they have been doing for their schools. We also started our jobs, and every Monday I always go to the Foursquare Church to vacuum or clean the bathrooms. Another one is Backpack for Kids, and my friend Mark goes there and he packs up the backpacks and delivers them to the schools. We also started a booster club with the Henderson Bay, and my sister goes there, and my mom is the president of this club. And the mission of this club is to build a vibrant community of parents, guardians, teachers, staff, and students that promotes by learning and their health, diversity, equity, and their conclusion. In conclusion, we also have our Meals to Morton that's coming soon on October 22nd, and it's a opportunity to celebrate and honor Barbara Morton, and she was the one who did everything to support teaching through cooking for the students, because she loves cooking. We are still continuing with our activities for Fridays in the community, which gives us a chance to learn how to plan, budget, transportation, research, and engage with peers in the community. And CTP also started a leadership class on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I was also able to attend a leadership conference at the University of Washington this summer for 1 week. And I'm excited to share my leadership learning with this class. And that is all for I was going to say, so thanks for the opportunity to share with the board.
Does anyone have questions or comments for our student reps?
Sounds like everyone's off to a good start.
Well, I was going to say, do you have time for class mixed in with all the things that you're doing? Sounds like it. You guys are doing a great job. So keep up the good work, and we'll look forward to hearing from you in next month. Oh, you know what? I do have one question. Theme for HOCO. Are you supposed to dress up like that? So I know at Peninsula you said you're doing movies, and at Gig Harbor you're doing a hoedown. What's the point of the theme?
Yeah, you could dress up like that.
Like a car?
I mean, yeah,
How do
I
you
know
do
some of I know a lot of, okay, not a lot of people, but I know some people who are gonna dress up like that. But I think it's mostly for the for the homecoming walls, because seniors will have a part of a wall they decorate, juniors, sophomores, freshmen, and then teachers will vote on the walls to see who gets, and whoever wins, wins.
Got it.
Yeah, I know some people though are gonna dress up for that. Not many though. No.
Okay.
It's just gonna be a normal dance with the walls like that.
Fun.
Yeah, it's just kind of the theme.
Awesome.
I mean, I think it's probably the similar thing for Gig Harbor, where it's mainly just the theme of the dance and not necessarily how people are dressing, I guess.
Okay, so no clogging. Okay, just checking.
Might be some music for that.
Perfect. All right, thanks you guys. Outstanding. Welcome back. We're so glad to have you here. Okay, so we'll roll on to item 5 on our agenda, which now will be our report. So our first report is item 5.1 on the agenda. It's our monthly budget update with Ashley Murphy.
Let's just enjoy that awkward silence while I walk up here. There we go. Okay, so prior to jumping into our August year-end data, I wanted to provide some information, updated information on enrollment. So overall, enrollment is solid. We are up approximately 40 FTE from where we were last year. And so when you're looking at our annual average FTE for last year, across our buildings, we're up about 40 FTE from that. Gig Harbor High School was within 0.2 of budget. PHS was within 5 FTE of budget. We did see elementary decrease, which is what we were anticipating. And where we saw the increase was actually in middle schools, particularly Harbor Ridge. So there's a nice solid update for enrollment. So seeing an increase in enrollment right now is obviously positive. Come January, it will account to some additional revenues as the state starts paying us based upon actuals instead of budget. And you'll hear me continue to update on enrollment as the year progresses. Okay, so now jumping in, so this is for our 23-24 year end. This report gets changed over the course of about 6-week time period as we're working on closing the books on last year. So Peninsula School District is a modified accrual district. That means from an accounting standpoint, we book accruals or we book expenses back into the year in which the expense was incurred. So even when we pay an invoice this year, we're not booking it to this year, we move it back to last year. Same thing with payroll. So what you're seeing now is not our final numbers. You will see revenues increase and you will see expenses increase as we push revenues and expenses into the appropriate year. So I'm just going to throw that out there as a caveat, and then when we report on our financial statements in December, you'll see where we truly ended. So revenues as of right now, we were approximately 101.4% of what we had anticipated to collect in revenues is what we had collected. Now, the percentage variance that you're seeing on the far right-hand side, that green semicircle, that is what is throwing that percentage so much higher, because we are at 166% of what we were anticipating as far as the federal government goes, and that has to do with the free meals being provided in elementary schools and the increased participation in our meal programs in those schools. Apportionment is obviously our largest revenue generator, which is what we would expect. And then you can see all the rest of what makes up about 99.5% of our revenues listed there in our top 10 sources of revenues. The next slide is our expenditures. That green semicircle is what I track to ensure we're staying above 4%, within that 4 to 6% range. So you can see right now we're tracking at 9.79, but that's without the accruals back to last year. Like I have about $2.5 million worth of payroll that I need to move back to prior year for August days. So that will drop that percentage, but ultimately we will end up within that 4 to 6% range. So we have no issues with that. Total expenditures year to date, we're currently sitting at about 98%. Again, as we move the expenses back to last year, we'll see that percentage increase to be closer to 100%. Salaries and benefits, we're at 100.04%. And our basic education costs for the year, we're currently sitting at about 99.5%. The next one is where we are currently trending as far as ending fund balance. Current year, or last year being the current year, and the 3 prior years. Last year is the blue solid line. So what we're looking for here is that it's following the same type of highs and lows, which happen to correspond to levy collection months. And we also see an increase in the last 2 months of what the state actually considers the school year, so being July and August, because we get almost 25% of our apportionment after the school year has concluded. So we expect to see that increase. The green triangle is where we had budgeted to be. When we gave the budget presentation for 24-25, remember we're expecting to be closer to 13 million fund balance for year end based upon a multitude of different factors, that being increased revenue collection and competitive grants that we've been applying for across the board at the building level and at the district level, as well as renegotiating contracts to reduce our costs, and Patrick doing an amazing job of ensuring that costs are being split to appropriate entities when we have shared costs that are incurred, and also negotiating vendor costs as they arise. Okay, so this gives you a more detailed aspect of where we are currently sitting. So the boxes on the far left are last year, and then on far right, that is the 23-24 school year. I'm currently working in 3 years, so when I say last year, I'm technically talking this 23-24. So right now we're about 4% over as far as the actual levy collection. A lot of that has to do with the fact that if taxes aren't paid, like property taxes aren't paid, the district, when those property taxes are paid, the district still gets their percentage from those property taxes that are paid late. That is what will throw you above your percentage collection. Aside from that, you're seeing that our state special purpose is currently at about 107% of what was budgeted. Part of this has to do with the legislative session this year, in which we did receive additional funding for MSOCs, and we did receive some additional special education funding, so we're seeing increases in both of those areas. And then last slide. This gives another detailed breakout of our revenues and expenditures by category type. So you can see total dollars out the door when it comes to certificated salaries or classified salaries, our benefit percentages, and our material, supplies, and operating costs. So one of the items where you see that supplies and then instructional resources and not non-capitalized items, that is our MSOCs. Those are our dollars out the door just to keep the building running. You can see that we have approximately an $8.7 million savings on that side. One of the reasons that you see an increase or dollars left on the table during that is if we're able to hire SLPs, OTs, PTs, they're no longer considered like a purchased service or anything like that. We can put them back into certificated salaries. So you'll see your certificated salary balance decrease, and then you'll see your MSOC balance increase. You'll have capacity left there, so it's just swapping when we're able to actually hire the staff. That's all I have for August as of right now. Questions? Okay.
Students, any budget questions?
Logan?
Just ask
Logan?
Logan?
What? Okay.
Did she do all right?
Set a high bar, Logan.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay, next up, I'm going to call Michael Farmer. He's our chief of schools. He's going to give an update on our harassment, intimidation, and bullying. This is a follow-up to a study session that we had months ago in April, where we started looking at all of the policies and procedures that we have. So welcome, Michael. Thanks
All
for
right.
presenting tonight.
Thank you. Jenny, does this remote work? You don't think so? Let me try real quick. It does not. Okay, will you go back to the title slide? Okay, thanks. All right, so good evening. So if you've been paying attention to what's been important to this school board for a while, you've noticed that belonging is a big deal. It's part of our strategic plan. And if you've been paying attention further, you've heard reports from families and students that some students are really successful here. They really feel a sense of belonging, and other students maybe not so much. And you've heard similar stories from parents and other people in the community. So as somebody who's new to the district, the superintendent, and then directly the board asked me to take a look at this as somebody who's new to our system and new to our organization. So what I want to do tonight is just give kind of an overview of what's going to happen over the next couple of months as we do kind of a management review of all of this. And we decided to approach it kind of as a management review, which would be a leadership team. We'll kind of run some activities, dive into some things, talk to people, and then present a report in 3 or 4 months. So I'll just go into a little bit more detail about that. So Jenny, we go to the next slide. All right, thanks. So right there, you can see some of our initial objectives right there. So to begin with, we're going to look at our existing policies and compare them to model policies and check how they align with current laws and those sorts of things. We're going to look at our procedures and see that they're aligned and consistent throughout the district. That includes communication, where things are in handbooks and other publications, and make sure, again, those are consistent across our district. We're going to look for gaps in the way those things are handled, and then we're going to audit and analyze our existing prevention measures as well. So, and there's a few other of those objectives there too that you can take a look at. And then you can see that our scope is that we're going to try and review and our incidents, and we're going to kind of focus from like the return from COVID in person up through basically the end of last school year. Potentially dig into a few things this school year. We'll just see how all of that goes. Jamie, go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so I kind of alluded to this earlier. So you can see there some of our key activities. So there's the data collection, like I mentioned. We're going to look at incident reports, complaints, and some disciplinary records. We'll try to look for trends and patterns in that information and that data. I mentioned surveys and interviews, so we'll be talking to students, parents, teachers, community members, and through that process, other people may come up that we want to have interviews with. I'm envisioning that our team will be on site for a couple of days to conduct a lot of those interviews. I mentioned the policy review as well, and then we'll do some communication and implementation around our policies and our procedures once that's all completed as well. All right. And then in terms of our milestones, so this month we're really just trying to nail down our objectives and make sure that we've got our team in place. And I'm happy to share tonight that that's pretty much done. So the team's going to be me. It'll be Brad Brown. Let me make sure I get the name right. Our second person that's going to be on that team is Sarita Sakaros Thornburg. Both of them are from Puget Sound ESD. They have experience in teaching and learning and those sorts of things. And they've conducted reviews like this before. And then we've also had Annalisa Klumpar be a part of our team. She's currently the Chief Technology Officer in Franklin Pierce School District. She's a former school board member in Pierce County, and she's done a lot of work in this area as well. So she'll have a great, unique perspective on that. So that's our September work. So then October and November really kicks off the actual review of policies, the things I just said in the previous slide, those interviews and things like that. And then depending on how long that takes and what other information we decide to look at, we're anticipating coming to the board with a report either in December or January. It'll just kind of depend on how long things take in October and November and people's availability and those sorts of things. And then you can see there in that slide what our report will actually include. So you see we'll give a summary of our current situation. We'll look at our organizational reporting structures I mentioned before. We're going to look at comparison school districts. A lot of times when we do these sorts of things, you look at districts and we can identify other comparison districts by a lot of different categories or different characteristics. We could look at, student enrollment, per pupil expenditure, free and reduced lunch rate. There's lots of different things we can pick, and a lot of times we'll sit down as a team and we'll agree on those maybe 3, 4, 5 districts before, and then use them as examples. We'll from there we'll have our observations shared with you about our interviews and our documentation, and then we're going to have a task force that's going to do. We'll have a report from them as well, and that's what Julie's going to be doing. That's been talked about before. So that'll all come out of the review, and that'll be part of the report as well. All right, and hopefully what we'll see from this, and this will be over a stretch of time, is you'll see some strengthened HIB and non-discrimination policies and response mechanisms. We'll have more training and programs that'll support the current systems and any new systems we need to put in place, excuse me. You'll see some ongoing work around accountability in some of our frameworks there. And you'll see recommendations to improve our systematic issues in terms of HIB and non-discrimination and those sorts of things. And then a communication plan that we can share with the community about what we're doing and what's coming down the line as we move through this process. So that's a really high level right there. I'd be happy to take any questions, and then we'll be reporting back to you soon.
Maybe just a comment.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael, for taking this on.
Thank you, Chuck.
This is quite a task, and it's been something. Thank you. That was really it. Just to thank you for taking it on. It is something that needs to be done, looked at and reviewed. So
Happy to do it.
Yeah.
Any comments from students? I'm curious if you see anything in there that, or don't see anything in there that you think should be reviewed. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question. Do you know how students are going to be selected to be interviewed? Is it random? Is it volunteer?
We actually haven't decided that yet. That'll be part of the work once we get our team together. Anything else?
Good question. Same goes for task force, right? Will be
Yes.
just made up of, you're looking, what is that task force going to be comprised of?
Julie, do you want to talk about that a little bit more about the task force? We're still kind of establishing what the committee, who's going to be part of that group. Right now, we're just kind of looking for interested people.
Sure. Okay.
Sorry, that was my question. So there's the kind of steering committee and a task force, two
Well, they're kind of
groups?
operating in tandem. So
Okay.
the task force that Julie's going to lead kind of came out of some conversations we've had over the last couple of weeks, just to kind of take an immediate look at things, because this is a bit of a longer term approach that'll look at past practice, things that are in place now, and some changes that are systemic and might take, months to years. So Julie's going to try to get really a current lay of the land. So that'll feed into this group. And I'm envisioning a lot of what comes out of that work will get reported to this committee and go into the other work that we're going to do.
Just follow up, is this committee just going to be for the purposes of this, or I guess you'll find out once you get moving?
We will. And I
Okay.
think we'll see that things fall into place, because harassment, intimidation, bullying is a pretty big overarching envelope. So I think a lot of things will come under that as we start digging and asking questions and conduct our interviews.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, anything else?
No? All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, up next, we've got Julie with our TPEP, the Teacher and Principal Evaluation Program update. And Julie is our Deputy Chief of Schools. Thank you for being here.
I am. Thank you, President Wembley, Superintendent Barr, directors. I'm here to share with you our updates for our TPEP program. This is our Teacher and Principal Evaluation Program. There were 3 updates that were recommended by our stakeholders. There was a stakeholders group that met last year throughout the school year, teachers, administrators. They met to review the practices that we were currently doing in our district and then compare them with what was coming up for some updates from the state. So there were updates that went into effect from OSPI, and we wanted to be ready for those, so there was a planning team last year. And those updates have to do with the Danielson Framework for Teaching, updated student growth goals, and we have selected an updated evaluation tool. So first, the Danielson Framework for Teaching. This is one of the 3 frameworks that the state allows us to select from. Our district uses the Danielson Framework, and we've been using that since this became a practice in 2011. That framework was updated by the creator of the framework, Charlotte Danielson. So this was something that OSPI let us know that we had a window of time to begin to use what's called the current teaching framework, and this is the year that we are using that as our evaluation tool with all of our teachers. So the major changes that happened were in the context of actually evaluating teaching. So the framework was updated to include these 6 clusters. The framework has 4 domains that we look at: the classroom, the preparation and planning for instruction, the delivery of instruction, and then how we act as professionals. And what the new framework did was expand that to talk a little bit about these major clusters that overlap. And so within that was a focus on clarity and accuracy with information that we present, the focus on learning environment, increased focus on classroom management and students having a critical role in creating the environment within which they learn, intellectual engagement, further defining that as something that we want to see students playing a critical part in that engagement. So not just teachers delivering, but how are students helping to co-create that and to be really participating in, asking a lot of questions, being critical consumers of the information. Successful learning is further defined as students, again, participating deeply in that content, and professionalism included a component of engaging with families to learn more about the students that we are teaching. The student growth goals was the second major change, and again, OSPI guided this. So our recommendations from the state were that we could select last year or this year to begin using what's called the new student growth goals, and our district adopted them this year. And so the new student growth goals are geared towards teachers and principals having a conversation about growth for students rather than looking at just achievement data. So the way that plays out is it asks for us to look at multiple data points throughout the year collected by the teacher. We look at evaluating the growth over time for students. We involve families and students in creating the goals that they have for themselves as learners. So that would be the students, and then also talking to families about what are the goals you have for your student as a person, as a learner. And then the evaluation is a conversation between the principal and the teacher, not, let's say, turning in a spreadsheet. And so in the older student growth goals, there were sometimes just metrics that were examined, maybe a form or one document with pre and post test data. And we didn't really get to see the depth of who the students are and their complex nature, whereas the new student growth goals encourages the teacher and the principal to have a conversation about what the teacher knows about the kids and why they selected the pieces of evidence they have to show growth for those students over time. And then finally, our district has adopted using the eval program to help track teacher evaluation and track all this data. This was something that the TPEP stakeholders group recommended. This is something from the ESD that is free for school districts. It ensures transparency in data gathering and an exchange of information between the principal or evaluator and the teacher. It encourages a dialogue. So instead of maybe uploading only documents, this is a place where they can have an exchange, a back and forth of either comments or questions that somebody asks can be posed back and forth. And then it also helps us to track timelines. That was another part that our stakeholders group really wanted to make sure is that we were ensuring that everyone was transparent in what our timelines were for all of our evaluations. And lastly, it is aligned to the newest Danielson rubrics and the newest Danielson as student growth goals. So everything comes together in this one package for both parties to use. It's a software program, so it's an internet program that we can use, and there's an interface that different members of a district's team works on. Teachers have a profile at OSPI for, it's called EDS, and they select the school that they're associated with, and then they get a role called eval, and when they click it, the principal and the teacher can both see everything that's entered. And so if I go in as a principal and I take notes on your lesson, I can share those immediately with you and you can see my notes. And then there's several different interfaces that you and the principal can engage in to talk about how did this lesson go. The rubrics are right there on the document, so you can compare when you read the notes. You can look and say, well, where do I think this falls on the rubric? So it's all right there. That makes it a lot easier to have those exchanges between teacher and principal so that there's not like a gap. So it's not like I took notes and then have to type them for you and then send them to you and hope that translates. It's all right there in one platform. And this is new? It's new for us this year, but it's been used throughout South Sound districts for a very long time, since 2011 when when TPEP went into effect in 2011, this was one of the tools that's available. It's not required by the state. Districts get to select what kind of tool they use, and usually that's something that your stakeholder groups will decide together. We had a different tool, and the stakeholders group, when they evaluated the changes that were coming, decided that they also wanted to change tools. And so this is, like I said, it's a free tool from EDS. Many districts use it, and we're getting on board this year. It is, yeah, it's like the My Chart of evaluations, yep.
I'll just say I'm glad that we finally had this update. I know it was several years that the board didn't receive an update on the TPEP program, and past years we didn't really get a satisfactory answer on what we were doing with it, so I appreciate that. I know, I don't know, 8-9 years ago when TPEP came out, it seemed like there was going to be some pushback on it, and so hopefully that's not happening today, that they've embraced it. I was really happy to see that most recent OSPI data for our school district is 66% reading and 53 math and 56 science, so we're well above the state average. So I'm happy to see that as we get our future SIP plans in the coming months from our principals, that the teachers are aligned to working towards our strategic plan of 100% reading and writing. So hopefully everyone's bought into that strategic plan goal. So thank you, appreciate it.
Can you talk a little bit more about, in the student growth goals, the section on involved families and students, kind of what that looks like?
Sure, that's something that's new. So the student growth goals are completely new this year. So everyone's working on learning exactly what that looks like. The way that it is, there's some recommendations about how it could play out. But essentially it works where the parent can provide some input to the teacher about what they know about their student. So it could be small, like my student does best when they have written assignments and it's not just oral. It could be something wider reaching, like there's been this impact on my student and I want you to be aware of it. So the teacher, when they're making their goals for students, will take that input into effect when they're talking about what would demonstrate growth for this student. So it's less around having to have, I don't know, you've probably seen the red and green and yellow bar graphs of kids' performance. It's less about that and more about what does each student need to be successful, and how do we know within this span of time, as we're looking at this data that the teacher's bringing, how is the teacher able to speak about each of those data points for those unique kids? So it might turn out to be some surveys, to families. It could also be that the teacher has gathered that information during student-led conferencings that we have coming up. It could be that in the high school, it will for sure look different in the high school than the elementary, but it could be that the student is more involved in the high school because it's them voicing, like, I want to grow in this way. But the goal would be that the teacher wouldn't set the goal completely alone. They would look and say, what does this individual need to show growth, and how can that work?
I really appreciate Jennifer asking that question, because I really am glad that we're involving the parents and the families in these decisions. As far as growth, though, if a student is below standard, or now whatever it's called, students on track, if they're below that level, they can make growth year over year, but still be what's considered below grade level. So how are we making sure that they're on track to graduate and be ready for post high school, whatever it might be?
So that would be through our cycles of assessment that we're doing and our PLC work that our teams do. They're going to still be tracking that we have students trending 1+ years if they need to be growing more. But for the student growth goal part, it is something that's a little bit unique to Washington. It's not in every evaluation system throughout every single state. But in Washington, we want to make sure that our teachers are consciously planning with students to know what will help them to get to that next level in a small unit of study. Not through the entire maybe year, but just in this unit, what is it that you most want to grow at? Yeah. Let me help you get to that, because every one of those steps is going to be helping you overall.
Yeah, and I don't even know if I've ever asked this question in 11 years of a board meeting, but when I was a kid, if a student wasn't passing the standard and to get out of third grade, they would roll back and repeat third grade. We seem to have gotten away from that a long time ago. Maybe it's because we didn't want to hurt the kids' feeling that they had to repeat third grade. But if a student isn't ready to move on to the next grade, what do we do about that? I mean, do we encourage any kind of repeat of grade? Because I think this is the first time I've ever asked this question. So what do we do in that case?
Well, we have a board policy that requires us to evaluate students for retention, but retention is stated in the board policy is not recommended. So we don't retain students usually. Typically what happens is students go to the next grade level and then the teachers have assessed what they need, and some of our UDL strategies are utilized. We sometimes make references to something like a lap help class. Sometimes there are intervention or support classes in our secondaries that would specifically target, let's say, math or reading skills that they need. And so we don't normally retain kids. We usually find ways to do targeted interventions to help them boost to that next level to get them ready for the next challenge.
I was wondering, is this something that is going to be used to take students who maybe aren't at grade level to grade level, or can it also be used for students who want to go above their standards at grade level?
That's the part about the student growth goals, is that if they're at grade level and the students are working with that teacher to go above grade level, then yes, the teacher would be looking not just at achievement, but at growth overall.
And can students choose what they want to grow at?
Well, in this particular situation, the student growth goals is a unit of study that the teacher has designed. So if you are writing an essay unit in your English class, the teacher will look at where you started at the beginning of that unit, set goals with you to show growth, and then over time show that you've met those goals. So they're pretty tight packages of units of study.
Okay, item 5.4 is our report on the WASDA General Assembly. So David and I will maybe tag team on that a little bit. David, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, so this past weekend, Natalie and I, or actually Friday, it was supposed to be Friday and Saturday, but unlike past legislative sessions that took the entire weekend, we actually got done in one day. So it was amazing. So the difference between this year and past years was when we served on legislative committees or resolution committees, you know, we did a lot of work through the year to get all these positions ready. And then we go to the legislative session, they'd argue all day to make amendments and changes to all the work that the legislative and resolution committee has been doing. And Natalie's been sitting on that committee for the last year. So it sort of made no sense for these committees spend all these countless hours to make these changes and then have them all overturned. So the WASDA board decided this year we wouldn't be doing that. We're just going to vote yes or no on the amended, saying not argue all day over it. So there was still a little back and forth, but nothing like past years. So I would, there was decent turnout. I'd still like to see, I don't know how many school districts you think showed up.
48.
Huh?
148.
148. And remember, we have 295 school districts in the state, and still less than half are attending the Legislative Assembly. And they don't have to fly in for it, but they could do it via Zoom. So I'd still like to see more representation from, but it wasn't near as contentious this year because the way the vote's gone, so we didn't have all that kind of stuff happening either. So I was really proud that the Peninsula School District put 6 proposals and amendments together. And I don't know if you want to talk about that, but all 6 of our recommendations, several were new. One was on funding safe, healthy, contemporary schools. One was a new position on the Clean Buildings Act. You might have remembered about last year that the state had said all the school districts had to upgrade their facilities, and we had to pay for the inspection, which would cost millions, and it would cost even more than that to renovate all the buildings and bring them up to standard. So we put a position together that said if they're going to do that, make us do it, then the state needs to fund it. So that passed, so we were happy to see that. We came up with a capital project construction, which really just changed some words around about financing facilities. And another one was literacy, that, new proposal. We're really big on literacy and getting better in our school district. So another one was on the importance of literacy being foundational. And the other one was our effects on social media on mental health. So we submitted several new positions to WASDA, and they were all approved. So I was really proud of the work this board did to get the body of WASDA to agree and support our positions. So.
Yeah, great. Outstanding. I want to give a shout out to Jennifer, because Director Butler worked very hard on this language. So it's a lengthy manual that we have already. So Jennifer went through and read every piece, particularly around the capital project language, which is old and insufficient, certainly, for making any kind of real change in how we fund capital projects, how we build schools here. So thank you for that, because it was, not only did they pass, but they passed at rates of 99%. I mean, there's always going to be someone who votes no on everything. I don't know who that was, but really it's putting language in there that says that we believe. So it's a statement that WASDA, as our whole membership, as one large advocacy group at the state level, says we believe that safe and healthy facilities that support high quality teaching and learning are foundational to basic education, which is code language for saying the state can do more to fund how we construct our buildings. Also, she put in language about saying it's not just construction costs that matter, but total project costs. So it would take an expert architect, someone who's done this for years and been a fierce advocate to craft language like that, and then the Clean Buildings Act funding. So it's really unfair that we are penalized, whether by having to pay for these renovations or be fined for not being able to afford making those changes. So outstanding job.
One more. Don't forget the SCAP funding.
The SCAP funding, that's right. So
that was
state
really
match
important.
dollars, as you know, we've talked about this for years. The reason we were able to do our middle schools in tandem with the bond that we passed for the elementary schools was because of the state match dollar. So there's a program by which the state sets aside money. If you've passed a bond, which is hurdle number one, then you can apply to receive state matching, kind of state dollars for capital projects. But if that money is not utilized, it goes away and gets reallocated. So we wrote language in there that says the legislature cannot reallocate money that's been earmarked for SCAP funding. So it feels like a tremendous win because you get this vote and it feels like this is what's going to happen. It's not what's going to happen. It's just how WASDA as a legislative group advocates. So when they go to Olympia to talk to legislators or push a priority, they do it from this policy. So this defines what our values are and what our legislative priorities are as a district or as a board of school directors. The literacy piece we partnered on with Shoreline and Lake Washington school districts, so we have a very strong piece there. We are one of, I think, only 10 states that doesn't have current legislation related to literacy, so I would imagine that will happen in the next year or so. So it's very important to get this language written in there so that we have a place to start the conversations with. And then that social media piece it's interesting because it actually didn't pass through the resolutions committee originally. We amended the language, and then there was so much pushback in this meeting that I was in that some districts just thought social media is here to stay. We don't want to tackle it. Let's hands off as a group. This is really none of our business. And we went back again and again and said we absolutely cannot talk about things like HIB, like bullying, and what's happening to our children, the mental health crisis that we're seeing if we do it not in conjunction with social media. So big win to have those pass. So congratulations. And next steps, I will forward you all an email. Now what we have to do is take all of the priorities and rank them. So we pick our top 10, and then we send those off to WASDA, and then they take everyone's ranking, and that's how we will decide what we are going to advocate for in Olympia next year. So usually it's going to be the same things: fully funding basic education, special ed funding,
bond,
transportation funding, all of those. But there are some really important ones in here this year that I think will be important. I think that's it. Yep, less than half. I'm always never not disappointed in the lack of participation, honestly. I'm not sure why people don't come. Maybe they feel like they're happy with the way things are, and there's always room for improvement. So, all right, any thoughts or questions on General Assembly?
There's a comment. Thank you so much to the three of you, in particular, for your tireless work on this and attending, but certainly all the work that Jennifer did, getting ready for it, and wordsmithing and all of that. So it's great to have that each of you brings a different, lens. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both for being there and for, I feel like this is the first time that the process has been, it's finally clicked, right? Why this work is so important and kind of our role as a board and why this is so important. And, given sort of my background and passion area around capital projects, it's just, this felt really good because it's very, very difficult unless you kind of are in the arena, if you will, of construction to understand what a big deal it is to talk about a project cost versus a construction cost. That seems like semantic, but it's not. That's millions and millions of dollars. And so if we are getting allocations based on a construction cost and not a project cost, that does not remotely reflect the true cost of building a school. So it seems small, but it's not. It's very significant, and we need to all be talking the same language as a state collective board of directors and to our legislatures, right? Because that's a very easy thing to overlook as, oh, well, that's just semantic. It's not.
Right.
It really matters a lot. So anyway, thank you both for, advocating for this, for being present, and it was a really important experience, I think, and I'm excited to, see where it goes next year and then, keep building on this.
Thank you. One last thing I wanted to add was this was one of our goals. So we set goals for ourselves as a board. We've worked on our board operating protocols, and we've worked very hard this year at pulling out of the details and really living in the board's world, working on policy, working on our, how we present locally and then to the state. And we really wanted to have some permanent positions pushed forward. So I think we said we wanted 1, and to have 5 done is pretty outstanding. So,
And I would just say, if you don't advocate for your own school district, no one else is going to do it for you.
Sure.
So the 150 that don't show up are not getting any opportunity to do what might be helpful for their school district. So,
okay. All right. Okay, we're going to move on to item 6, which is comments from the community on agenda items. So as you know, we're now doing 2 different periods for public comment. The first will be on items that are on the agenda. There will be a second session provided later in the meeting. Reminder that the board does not respond to comments. Our silence does not indicate a position for or against or indifferent, but it's rather to maintain a neutral environment and avoid creating a perception of bias. When I call your name, please come to the podium, and again state your first and last name. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Just for clarification on the 2 comments, did someone give 2 separate comments? Or is it you just
Sure.
get to pick one comment?
No, you could do both. One on if it's on the agenda.
Curious, and then I went back and looked, and I was like,
Yeah, so that's a good question. The agenda items are usually for things that we are going to take action on, so we want to hear those comments before we take action, and then we reserve a time for general comments at the end of the meeting. So if you have both, yes, then you may. You're welcome. Also, you know that I hate to cut people off, but I will, so if your comments take more than 3 minutes, then you are always welcome to email the board as well. So on our agenda items this evening, we have Carol Rivera first, and then after Carol will be Jen Bunch.
Carol Rivera, Peninsula Education Association President. I am actually very excited about the 2 different opportunities to speak. I have something later I'll talk about. I just first wanted to thank Michael and Julie for their presentations, giving that summary, offering that fresh lens to our district. We've had a lot of changes in leadership, and so having a different way of looking at things is very valuable, as is the institutional knowledge that we have here and kind of understanding how we work through through a lot of the things that come to you as a board. What I would say is that a lot of the things that were discussed today under HIB and under TPEP actually have many things that are part of our collective bargaining agreement. The importance of having educator voice and educators being able to advocate for themselves and their students is really important. So we have included equity, diversity, and inclusion representatives in our contract, as well as the MTSS representatives, and those overlap with many of our language on discipline. So we look forward to being part of that process. Julie was kind enough to give that summary of TPEP, and her experience as a principal is very helpful. That also is a new document that has been negotiated based on the feedback from the stakeholder groups and in collaboration with the district. So our goal is always to have consistency. I did want to just make sure that everyone understood that this is the teacher and principal evaluation pieces. And although some things have changed, a lot of the things remain the same, and we have the same interests at heart. I would like to, I guess I'll looking at my time, but I also wanted just to make sure that the student growth piece is also about how the educator and how they grow in order to help their students succeed. So this is about professional growth for educators, and there are additional systems that have been mentioned that have to do with the growth of students overall, so I appreciated the questions on that, but they are not based on standardized tests. They often are not. We like them to be connected to the goals and strategic plan, but it is up to each educator and what area of growth they need to make. The last one I wanted to talk about in my 45 seconds, I see that policy 5254, staff expression, is on the agenda for the first reading. I'm just going to, I also read through the different areas that is cross-referenced in that. This appears to be a new policy, and it does discuss adding procedures to follow through on that. I would just like the board to perhaps consider pausing on any adoption of policy around this, especially as we have had some conversations around social media and other things, and the impact of our community, and the vagueness of some of that language, so that it could be interpreted very differently by different people who read it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is Jen Bunch.
See you all so much better with my glasses on. Superintendent Barr, school board, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. And I had to condense this into a quick 3 minutes, so just so everybody knows where my heart is. I come from a mother who was assaulted by a staff member here, so that's where it feels like I jump around in this. That's where my heart is in this, and that's where I will always advocate for. So I'm here to express my deep concern regarding a recent letter that Superintendent Barr had sent out in regards to online bullying within our school community. While I appreciate the acknowledgement of this serious problem, I find your approach to be not only inadequate, but also troubling in its implications for accountability and transparency. It is alarming that the district has chosen to focus on controlling what is posted online rather than addressing the root causes of bullying epidemic. It is the recent issue that has come to light. I have serious concerns over hiring practices within the current administration. Had they conducted thorough background checks, as any responsible institution has, we might not be facing this crisis at all. Instead, it appears that the district is more interested in managing the public's perception than it is ensuring a safe and supportive environment for students and staff. Your insistence on reporting inappropriate posts, your reliance on social media companies for resolution demonstrate a lack of proactive measures. The suggestion that parents and guardians should bear the responsibility for monitoring their children's online activity, while valid, seems to deflect the accountability from the school district itself. It is not the role of the parent to pick up the slack of the district's failure to create a safe environment. Moreover, the tone of your letter suggests a concerning trend towards censorship and the suppression of free expression. We are not dealing with a mere communication issue. This is a fundamental rights of individuals to speak out and share their experiences. By criminalizing disclosure around these sensitive topics, the district risks fostering an atmosphere of repression. I urge you to reconsider your approach. It is not enough to simply acknowledge the issue of bullying. We must actively work towards a real solution that prioritizes the well-being of students and staff while upholding their rights. The community is watching, and we expect accountability and transparency, not a misguided attempt for damage control. In closing, I want to ask that if new hires are required, are they required to maintain social media accounts? Are there any guidelines governing their online conduct? As we consider how to address students' behavior on social media, it raises the questions of expectations we have for our staff as well. After all, they are role models for our students, and their online conduct should reflect the values we aim to instill in our community. My heart goes out to every child affected by bullying. We owe it to them to find a real solution. Let's be the district that paves the way towards kindness. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, item 7 this evening is our consent agenda. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second? It's been moved by David and seconded by Chuck. Any favor, or all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried and the consent agenda has been approved. Okay, on item 8 this evening is discussion or action items. This is the first read of 2 policies. The first one is policy 5254, related to staff expression. The second is policy 2030, which is related to service animals in schools. So again, this is a first read. We're not taking any action, but is there any discussion on either of the policies? Okay. Okay. Item 9 this evening is comments from the community on non-agenda items. So the same time limit will be in place. You'll have 3 minutes. When I call your name, please come to the podium and again state your first and last name. Any comments that are not completed in 3 minutes, again, can be emailed to the board. And first up, we have Chris Doherty.
Hi, good evening. My name is Chris Doherty, and I have 2 children in PSD. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I want to express my gratitude to the superintendent and the board for trusting our educators to choose the best curriculum for our students, focusing on critical thinking, empathy, and diversity. Regardless of which curriculum is selected during the pilot program, our students' education will remain the top priority. As we celebrate Banned Books Week, I also want to thank you for maintaining access to literature in our school libraries. Your decision not to yield to radical ideals and censor or remove books such as To Kill a Mockingbird, Charlotte's Web, Animal Farm, The Diary of Anne Frank, and Fry Bread is commendable. Thank you for trusting our librarians to curate their library collections to best suit each school. While many districts and states are challenging and banning books, your commitment to keeping all literature available to our students is truly appreciated. Thank you.
Next, we have Carol Rivera.
Hi, Carol Rivera. I am here as the Peninsula Education Association president. I wanted to actually extend my deepest gratitude to Superintendent Barr for sending a letter that really outlines one of the largest issues that is facing our schools. As people have talked about here, about building our culture of belonging, the bullying, the use of online forums to shame and hurt children and to shame and hurt the teachers who work with them is not new. It's something that I have been working on with my union and my association to have avenues to have those things addressed. In fact, I guess I'm just wondering what happened to what we used to do when things are posted on social media or those kind of things, and you notice the family, you notice the problem, and you get the people together to have that conversation. I just don't understand why people can't start with the individual and go to their teacher. Then why do they jump right to you as a board? Why do they go to the principal? Why can they not do the same thing we are trying to do, which is establish relationship with our students? I think I just want to challenge this board to be brave. You are taking very big steps in a lot of academic areas, and one of them being the cell phone policy and the discussion about our students' mental health. Those same issues that are facing our students are facing the adults that work with them. That is the premise and the thing behind the wellness work that we have jointly been doing. I think that it's very disappointing to have people who hide behind social media instead of engaging in those conversations in an open way to come to at least where are our common interests, which are our students and our children. But what we do need to recognize is that not every family looks the same. Not every student goes home to the same kind of family. Their diversity, the different things that they need are greatly varied, and we as educators understand that. But that is also the same case with our educators. As a parent in this community, my children have gone through preschool through high school and secondary. I did not once, the sideline talk at a soccer game, those other things where people want to rate your teacher. What is your experience? I told my children that they have to establish the relationship with their teachers and make sure that they don't have a preconceived notion about who they are, what they are, because someone else had a different experience. I think that same extension goes to our students. When I don't want to look at the red flags on a file, permanent record, 30 years of teaching, I try to greet those students at the door and make sure that they know I value them and I want to learn about them. Thank you.
Next, we have Karen Shuey.
Thank you for letting me speak here tonight. I am the widow of Pierce County Sheriff's Deputy Daryl Shuey. Daryl died in the line of duty in November of 2020. Our son is a freshman at PHS. He was horribly intimidated and harassed by a freshman football player at Gig Harbor High School. It happened on the field. And during their first game, they were helmet to helmet on the line of scrimmage. The student from Gig Harbor High School constantly and relentlessly harassed my son throughout the entire game, enough so that his own teammates spoke up and said, "Stop, we're gonna get a penalty." It was verified. That's over. Next, he goes home. He gets into the bathtub and makes a video of himself talking to my son. He doesn't send the video to my son, but he makes a video. In that video, he harasses my son for being a terrible football player. He says Peninsula High School's terrible football team. He goes on to accuse my son of an absolutely heinous, vicious crime. He continues the video and with a taunt and a harassment of my son, saying that your dead father would not be proud of you today. This video was given to Mrs. Suter. Mrs. Suter was in California at the time. She saw it with that football team with a special trip to Laguna Beach. Mrs. Suter saw the video. She also saw a video of the same child chugging a fifth of Fireball. Mrs. Suter saw the video and made a decision to allow that student to play in that game later that day. She then allowed that student to return to school. She allowed the student to go to practice and return to school again and go to practice. During that time, when she saw the video until action was taken, which I believe happened the first day of suspension, might have been Wednesday, my son continued to be harassed by this student. Zero tolerance is zero tolerance. I don't even know what that means because that principal failed to enforce a zero tolerance policy by not addressing it immediately and allowing the harassment to continue of my son. I stand here with other parents today with jaws on the floor. Hib, hib, hib. Policy change. Well, that's great, but if they're not enforced, what do they mean? Parents are screaming that there's a problem in the district with HIB, and they're verified. My complaint has been investigated and all verified. But her failure to act is a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Christy Wahala.
Sorry, that's a hard one to
Yeah,
follow.
it really is.
I'm Christy Wahala. I'm the parent of 2 students in the district. My oldest just graduated last year. I was really hoping to be able to come here tonight and thank you, Superintendent Barr, for the letter you put out in response to online bullying that's been devastating to our school district. I do have some major concerns I felt I needed to share with the board tonight about the commitment to the district to keep our kids safe. While I appreciate you hearing and responding to the students that have shared about the harm social media has had on our district students and staff, there are still so many accounts of in-person harm to students that have been left unacknowledged, unheard, and a mere footnote on the letter that was sent out. I will continue to encourage students and families to come forward and share their stories and report any incidents that they see or experience to their school administration. In this regard, I was verifying the correct ways for students to report HIB in the school district. Not only to investigate the incident, but also so that there's data for Mr. Farmer to use in his audit of the district policies and practices. I was a bit confused when I clicked on the Hear Me WA link that you said in your statement is our district's reporting system, as it's totally different than the reporting system last year, and I haven't heard any changes to that process. Hear Me WA is a program created by the Washington State Attorney General's Office. It's a statewide reporting tool for HIB. There's a place where kids can put in their school and the district that they're in. As a parent, I'd like to know what the timeline is for that report to get back to the school, get back to the district for investigation, for resolution, and for data tracking. There's also no link to this reporting system on the district's website anywhere. I then went to our district website where we were directed to go last year to use that HIB reporting form. I was shocked to find that the link Safety and Security under the Student Resources tab is a dead link that leads to a blank page that reads, "This page you are looking for is missing or has been disabled." As of right before I came up, it's still missing or disabled. I checked it all day. I then discovered that the link Make a Report under Family and Community Resources tab also leads to the same dead-end message. So this is extremely concerning and frankly reckless. As of, a few minutes ago, no one is able to submit a HIB report through the district website to district personnel. This is a huge setback and needs to be resolved immediately. The district must provide a quick, simple, and at minimum, accessible path for families and students to report concerns. Thank you.
That concludes our comments from the community for this evening. Item 10 on our agenda is the superintendent's report.
Yes, I have 2 items that I've planned on. So I would like to have Patrick come up and report. There you go.
It's hard to move faster as they get older.
About some ongoing issues.
Yeah. I think you're all aware at this point we've had some issues at Peninsula High School with the pool. One of the main functions of the pool is to hold water, and we're really having problems with it doing it. We're having a pretty significant leak in the plumbing of the pool underground. We noticed it this summer when we were replacing the lights in the pool area. We had started filling the pool, getting ready for the beginning of school, and we noticed it draining back down. We've worked with a lot of great companies to come out and try and help us out. Leak detection company couldn't really pinpoint where it was at, understanding these pipes are pretty far underground. We've had a pool company come out, open up the bottom of the pool, replacing the plumbing under there. We found one of the leaks. Unfortunately, there's multiple. We've had a really difficult time with the size of the pipe and the complexity of it, finding a contractor to do the work needed to replace the pipe or repair the pipe. What I'd like to say today is I'm happy to say that we are working right now with a company, ironically, local person, who does a lot of work all over the country that does pipelining and pipe bursting and all kinds of things. Everything I've been researching, they do it. So we are working on the paperwork now. They're working on their schedule to get out here. And we're really excited about them doing that. So as soon as we get that, we'll be able to update our schedule of when they'll be on site, when they can do that work, when we get the pool company back out to put the bottom of the pool back together, and be able to fill the pool, heat it, and get, and most importantly, our kids back in there, but also our community members as well.
Thank you, Patrick. And I know that I spoke with, was it Caitlin earlier? And I know that the Peninsula High School has been practicing in our Gig Harbor pool. So I know it's not optimal, but I appreciate you coming up. We have aged pool pipes.
It's almost as old as me, yes.
Well, we're not going to mention how
So
old that
it's like
is,
1 year
but-
older.
But I
Just making fun of
thought
myself.
it was incumbent upon us to say something to the public. So I appreciate it. I know that
Yeah.
you will also be reporting largely next week about all of the things that you've been doing, and I know that you have been very, very busy and will continue to do so. So I really
and
appreciate it.
I'm
Thank you.
excited to get this fixed and working with a company that took a while to find, but we had some great people that helped track them down out there. So I appreciate all those people that helped us connect. So I look forward next week to maybe giving you more of an update of it going
That would
well.
be wonderful. I just, cringe every time Patrick's like, I have an update for you. Can I give you a call? I'm like, sure. Pools tend to be, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, and they have to be heated, and, there's the chemicals inside it as well as the mechanics. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you all.
It is my pleasure, I don't know if it's my pleasure, but I'm going to ask Chris to come up and talk about our new website. And, nope, I think it's timely. We have been correcting things as we go, but Chris, I think this is a good time at least to have a conversation.
You bet. So, first of all, I want to thank you for pointing out two things that are actually broken that I didn't know about until you said them tonight. But one thing I did want to clear up is at the bottom of every single page on the district website and all school websites is a button that's titled Report a Concern. So if you scroll all the way to the bottom, Jenny, you will see on the right-hand side there's Report a Concern right there. It is on every single page on the entire district website, as well as every single page on every school district or school's website as well. That does take you right to an information page talking about Hear Me Wah. For those of you that are unfamiliar with Hear Me Wah is a new service put in by the state Attorney General's office. The beauty of Hear Me Wah is it allows us to have a faster response to some of the more critical issues that come in that people want to report. So the Attorney General's office has actually contracted with the Sandy Hook Promise nonprofit organization, and Sandy Hook Promise monitors every single tip that comes in real time, 24/7. So if they get a tip that could be suicidal ideation or threats of violence, those are referred to law enforcement immediately. It could be at 2 a.m, it could be middle of the day. Those reports then do come to us within, from what I've seen so far, within 1 or 2 hours we get them. They try and triage them and get more information first. And that's been really great because all of our reports that we've got in so far have given us so much more detailed information to be able to act upon immediately. And then those reports are sent directly to the schools, and then I and about 3 others at the district office get them as well. So just a kind of update on that piece.
So Chris, can I just clarify what I think I hear you saying?
Yeah.
So when parents click on that, it goes to Hear Me Wah, but then it directly goes to you as well.
Yeah, it goes, typically it'll go directly to me and the school principal that is responsible for the tip that is, I think we've had 7 or 8 so far this year that I've seen come in. They all specify, a specific student that has caused a problem or a specific location or something specific. And so those get forwarded directly to the school principals, the school administrators, and then myself, as well as 2 or 3 other people at the district office. So that's kind of how those tips work now. And we will get the other 2 links cleaned up tomorrow. So.
And we really do appreciate when it's pointed out, because I know even myself, I know the board has pointed out, and so making sure, because it is a brand new website.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it was a brand new website is that we have a new provider.
Thank you. There's some new functionality that will be coming over time. We, in the last minute, had to change providers for a couple of different reasons. But there will be more things that you will see that will be more positive moving forward. There's still some work we need to do cleaning up, but we did make that transition in a kind of rushed manner this summer due to some other underlying factors.
So if parents see something that they don't understand or see something that might be broken, what do you suggest that they do? Send an email or?
Yeah, there's a link at the bottom, I think, or email address for info@psd401.net. Yep, on the left-hand side there. Please send anything to that, and we will address it through that email address.
All right, thank you very much.
You bet.
So in all situations, here in the law, there's redundancy in the reporting, so.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, so the previous system we had, it was literally monitored by 2 of us. We took all initial reports, myself and one other person, and if one or both of us were sick or on vacation or something, those reports would sit there and potentially could sit there for days. They never did, because the other person never went on vacation. But no, she did a great job, and she was always very on top of those. And even when she was having time off, she would monitor those. But this is better. This is better for us because it also, because it is monitored 24/7, and also ties in with our new data tracking tool that we're going to be using for our HIB reporting this year. And so we're able to transfer those tips right out of Hear Me Wah into our new database for this. Yeah.
For the person making the report, how do they know that it went through or got?
It's an instant conversation from what I've seen. Like Hear Me Wah goes right back to them immediately and has conversation trying to clarify and get more details. So I haven't actually submitted a tip, so I don't know what that looks like on the end user side, but all of the tips so far I've seen, there's been instant conversations back and forth. So I think they either reach out via whatever method. You can text Hear Me Wah, you can email, you can call. I think all of those are possible, and so I think they try and reach out as long as the people have provided details on that.
Okay, but it is still anonymous?
It still can be anonymous, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And lastly, I have good news. It is, and I see the principal of PHS is here, so my Principal Benoit, would you like to wave or? Thank you. Principal Benoit shared some great news, and I'm going to share it on behalf of NJROTC. It is with distinct honor to share some remarkable news. Peninsula High School has been awarded the designation of Distinguished Unit with Honors for the 24-25 school year, recognizing the exceptional performance of our Navy Junior Reserves Officers Training Corps, commonly known as NJROTC program. This prestigious recognition is given to schools whose NJROTC units rank in the top 20% nationally, based on excellence in areas such as academic performance, military proficiency, administrative success, and school support. And it is an incredible testament to the hard work, dedication, and leadership of both the cadets and the faculty who support them. I want to take a moment, especially to thank the NJROTC instructors, the administration that supports them, and the staff members who have provided unwavering support. Your commitment has not only elevated our program, but also empowered our students to reach new heights. Now, this achievement also designates Peninsula High School as a Naval Honor School, an honor that allows us to nominate outstanding cadets, 3 of them for the U.S. Naval Academy, and 3 for the Military Academy, and 3 for the Air Force Academy. That is incredible. We are incredibly proud of what this means for our students and our community. It speaks to our shared commitment to excellence and the opportunities we are providing for our future leaders. Let's continue to encourage and support these students as they represent our school and our values with distinction. So thank you, Principal Benoit, and all of your staff. Thank you to all of the NJROTC staff and instructors, and this is quite an honor. So I am very pleased and proud to make that announcement. And there was a certificate that was given as well. I could not copy it on my machine, so I will also be sending that to you as well so that you can see that. So thank you. Do you have anything to say?
I'm just really proud of the program, of the kids, and Gig Harbor as well, because they're sending kids over and watching it in 4 years grow to what it is. And hats off to the kids for really buying in, but hats off to Robert Stockton and Derek Johnson for their experience and for their just endless commitment to providing opportunity for these kids that are everywhere. And providing so many great opportunities for the students. And these new appointments to these academies are in addition to what the program already had. So it is a nice recognition.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So I thank you for sharing that information, and thank you to all of the students from Gig Harbor, Henderson Bay, and from Peninsula that participate. So with that, I'm going to be done today. Our schools are open. They are vibrant. We are working every day, and thank you.
Fantastic. Okay. Item 11, board discussion and comments. Who wants to start? David, would you like to start?
Just enjoyed being at the Legislative Assembly. Seemed like we just had a board meeting. The last 2 weeks have gone by really quick for me. I've been a little bit busy. But I enjoyed attending the legislative session and representing the board and passing those 6 measures. But other than that, I'm happy to hear everything's going well. Happy to have our student reps back, and look forward to a great school year.
Yeah, not a whole lot to add. Really, again, appreciated the Ledge Conference. It just was really a powerful experience. And had our first special education parent advisory meeting, and that was great. Kind of in the spirit of NJROTC, it's just it continuously impressive how quickly these groups can grow when they are supported by our fantastic staff and our amazing parents, because that is another thing I noticed about NJROTC is that parent group is amazing. That booster group, I mean, they are there, they are hustling too, and it's same with these special education parent groups. So excited to get our committee standing up as we round out the month. Teacher conferences coming up, and getting back in the swing of going to bed early and doing homework. That's it.
I'm excited to announce possibly the fastest response time in the history of the district. Both of those links are already fixed. So in the time since it was pointed out, Danielle has fixed both links to the reporting form, I believe, on the district website. So thank you for doing that. Just a couple fun things. I had the pleasure of representing the board at the CTP barbecue that Lauren told us about that had University Place as well in attendance, and it was just a really great afternoon getting to know several of the students in that program, and we got to play some cornhole and eat some burgers, and just got to know several of those kids, so that was just really a great time. And then I went to the open house and senior meeting, I guess parent meeting at Gig Harbor High School last week, and that was just really fun to be there. All 3 of my kids attended there, so it was nice to be back and see some familiar faces and a whole bunch of new faces. I mean, really pretty remarkable how a staff in a building that big can turn over so many in just a few short years. But I was witnessing a teacher. I sat in a few of the actual classrooms and got to meet the new leadership teachers and some other folks, and I did have the opportunity to witness a parent meeting a teacher, for the first time and sharing some information. I couldn't hear what was being said, but the gist of it was sharing something specifically about their child's background that they thought would be useful, and that was something like that was brought up tonight in Julie's presentation. And I love that is now a part of actually the whole TPEP. But I do think that our teachers as a whole have done a really good job of that always over the years in some form or another. It's looked different, and I don't know that anyone has been monitoring it per se, but I know that as a parent, I often got a form home at the beginning of the year or was asked at back to school night in the different grades as well, asking, is there something we should know or what works best for your child? And so I think our staff does a great job of doing that, but I'm excited to see that we're really having more of a framework for what's happening. So that's all. Thanks.
More shop class. He made me repeat that. I'm really looking forward to more discussions on our capital facilities. Hearing what's going on at Peninsula again just really drives home the need to look beyond. We've done a great job so far, but we need to continue down that path. I want to thank the board for all the commitment that you guys have done, the legislative stuff. I've been working my tail off lately, so I feel like I've been absent from a lot of this stuff, but I will make it up to you. I'll get in there and get more involved too. This Friday, I'm going to be golfing.
That doesn't sound like making anything up.
For Backpack for Kids, okay? It's a fundraiser for Backpack for Kids. And I'm on Deputy Bet's team, so there might be some cheating going on, I'm not sure. But, yeah, but it's all for fun, and it's to raise funds for Backpack for Kids. So if anybody else, I think we still have a spot on our team if somebody wants to join. And that's all I have.
Scramble? Basketball?
Yeah, it is.
So you could do it.
Yes, it doesn't always
Yeah.
matter. That's the only way I go.
That's all I have.
I'll keep my comment short, but just want to thank the board and the district for allowing me to be a representative of the Peninsula School District in these places that we get to go and visit. I'm finishing up the year in my leadership WASDA cohort. So we meet with 16 other school district leaders, and we have sessions throughout the year that are focused on things like advocacy or driving change. And we met last week, or the week before last. We were supposed to be touring Highline Public Schools, which they were closed because of a cyber attack. So talk about having to change and pivot. So we learned a lot from that school district, but I'm always walk away so proud of being from the Peninsula School District, because I find that every district that I interact with knows something about what's happening here, whether they know Creston or they know the board or they know Chris Hagel, for example, things that we're doing. I'm always asked about, how did you get here with a cell phone policy or AI? Those seem to be the two leading things, but they know our kids, they know our sports, they know our academics, they know how beautiful our community is. And it's really a sense of pride for me to represent all of you. So thank you for allowing me to do that work. And it wasn't just last week since our last meeting, but it will just be 1 week before the next one. So we're trying to get back on schedule to our first and third Tuesday. So we're actually going to do that in October. So our next meeting will be on the 1st. So here at 6 o'clock on Tuesday the 1st, and then we'll meet again the 15th. But then we're kind of off schedule again November and December because we only have one meeting in those months. So we try to keep it to the first and third Tuesdays, but it seems like we don't do it very often. So short time until the next meeting, but like I said, we'll be here October 1st, 6 p.m. at Swiftwater. And with that, we are adjourned at 7:37.